Hello and welcome to the APOLLOPEX Codes and Standards virtual training. I'll be your trainer, Product Manager Holly Hoover. By the end of the course, you should know who the organizations are that set code, see what states ascribe to ICC, know the difference between a code, standard, and a certification, and which PEX faceting method corresponds to the proper standard. Lastly, how to read a print line. There are three organizations that determine how plumbing should be installed across the United States: ICC, IAPMO, and PHCC. Each state develops its own code based on what organization they follow, or some states set their own specific code. ICC stands for the International Code Council, and they set IPC, the International Plumbing Code. UPC stands for Uniform Plumbing Code and is published by IAPMO, the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials. PHCC is the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors Association and sets the National Standard Plumbing Code. Here's the most recent map of states who follow IPC. The states in dark gray follow other codes such as state-specific, UPC, or NSPC. Each state publishes its own code, which is what installers and inspectors follow. In turn, those codes cite standards that the products have to meet. For the most up-to-date information, always check the local code, as it may differ geographically or have changed. Standards establish performance criteria for products and provide test methods. A product can be approved to meet a standard as determined by a third-party testing lab, resulting in a certification. The American Society for Testing and Materials publishes a lot of the standards that PEX has to meet, as well as CSA, the Canadian Standards Association. We will be covering the main standards that apply to PEX. For more information, always check the ASTM, NSF, or CSA websites. ASTM F876 is the standard specification for PEX tubing, and it defines performance characteristics for the tube. ASTM F877 is the standard specification for PEX hot and cold water distribution systems, and it defines performance criteria the entire system has to meet. A similar standard is CSA B137.5. ASTM F1807 is the standard specification for metal insert fittings utilizing a copper crimp ring for SDR9 PEX tubing. Pro crimp rings are also certified to this standard. See the conceptual formula at the bottom of the slide. F2159, standard specification for plastic insert fittings utilizing a copper crimp ring for SDR9 PEX tubing. Pro crimps are also certified to this standard. Let's look at the formula below. It's similar to the previous concept, however this time there's a polyalloy fitting. ASTM F2098 is the standard specification for stainless steel clamps for securing PEX tubing to metal insert and plastic insert fittings. Pinch clamps are also known as Oedeker clamps. The conceptual formula at the bottom shows you can fasten either brass or polyalloy fittings with a pinch clamp. The standard also covers the stainless steel crimp sleeves. ASTM F2023 is the standard test method for evaluating the oxidative resistance of PEX pipe, tubing, and systems to hot, chlorinated water. The tubing is assigned a rating that appears on the print line in conjunction with the next standard. ASTM F2657 is the standard test method for outdoor weathering exposure of PEX tubing and uses natural sunlight for UV exposure over time. It is important to stress that all PEX tubing should be kept out of direct sunlight. Always follow proper storage and handling instructions. Next, we'll discuss how the UV and chlorine ratings are listed on the product. F2023 and F2657 have varying degrees of performance. This chart demonstrates the different ratings for each of those standards. As you read it, the levels are assigned a number from 0 to 6. Let's look at the example below the chart, 5106. The number begins with the chlorine resistance, which in this case is 5. The next number is the UV rating, In our example, this type of PEX has 1 month of UV resistance. Lastly, the final 2 spaces are reserved for the HDS rating at 73 degrees Fahrenheit, which is always the number 6. Plenums are defined as the open space in ceilings that are used for HVAC air return. Sometimes PEX can be run in plenums if it meets ASTM E84. Most objects, when exposed to heat or flame, immediately begin to smoke. This standard measures a low smoke and burn rating so that the fumes do not enter the HVAC system for a determined period of time. There's also a similar CSA certification. Among others, there are 2 popularly cited ASTM standards that have to deal with PEX-A tubing. PEX-A is fastened by expanding the tubing, inserting the fitting, and allowing the tubing to close back over the fitting, known as cold expansion. The first standard, F1960, uses a plastic insert fitting with a PEX reinforcing ring. The second is F2080, which uses a brass fitting with a metal compression sleeve for cold expansion. Neither the reinforcing ring nor the metal sleeve receive a secondary crimp. NSF 14 provides minimum health requirements for plastic piping system components, and NSF 61 provides minimum requirements for products used in drinking water systems. When both standards are achieved, as well as the applicable system performance standards, manufacturers can use the NSF PW certification mark. You'll see that later on the print line. In review, there are lots of standards that apply to PEX, and this presentation covers most of the standards you will encounter. All PEX tubing must be properly marked by the manufacturers. Here's a broad view of the print line. Let's take a closer look. The print line begins with the manufacturer's name and diameter of the tube. Pressure and temperature ratings are also listed. Did these look familiar? All of the standards we learned about are listed on the tube, as well as the date of manufacture. Congratulations, the course is complete. You should now be familiar with all of these topics. If you need to review, simply replay the webinar. Thanks for attending.